After a year of shopping, thinking, planning, ciphering, working, I finally got the Keith Black oil pump on here. Probably the biggest thing that was holding me back was the headers won't fit because passenger car headers have to turn in here, and that's right where the oil inlet is. So that's okay. I ordered a stainless header kit from stainlessheaders.com, and I talked a friend of mine into making new headers for me out of that kit. So that's the biggest obstacle to get out of the way. Of course, then I had to find a pan, and I found this one with the single -20 pickup, and this cavity back here is internal where you can feed the top and the bottom of the pump like a dual line Mylodon, except it does it with one line, so you got a -20. And then it has to have a remote, all of the Keith Black pumps are for remote filters. So I had to get a remote filter to put on here and get some hoses and make everything up. But that's all behind me. Now all I have to do is have him come over and put the header kit together, and he's a good fabricator, so I think he'll do a real nice job, and I'll be happy with it. I had to work on the oil pressure. They said when they ship these pumps, they ship them for 120 psi with 50 weight oil. Well, I didn't want 120. So they said take the inner spring out. It's got an inner and outer spring on the pressure relief valve. So I took the inner spring out, and they said that should get me down to about 90. And then there's a modified cap they sell, and I found out how to modify the cap like they want. And so I did that, so that should get me down more. And it's only got 1030 weight oil in it. So I think I'm going to get the pressure down where I want. We'll find out when I get to fire it up. But I think it's all going to work. It just was a lot of work. A lot of work. But we're almost there. When we last talked, we were about to build the headers to fit the oil pump, and my buddy came over every night after work for a week, and we finally got the headers built, and he did a fine job, and I'm very happy. And the oil pump worked out just fine, just like they said. You know, ships, they test them at 120 psi with 50 weight oil, and if you take the inner spring out, it takes it to 90, and then I did the modified cap, and it took it to 70 pounds, which is perfect for what I want to do, and thank you, Tom, for the help on that. And you know, we'll never know, would this oil pump overwhelm this engine if it was in a car doing 6,500 RPMs. We won't find that out because it's just going to sit here on the test stand. But I used 50 weight oil just like they used for when they flow it, test it. So everything worked out perfect. It's happy and I'm happy, and that's all that matters. And now for the real purpose of today's video. Just Mopar Joe on YouTube, and he's got a lot of followers, over 17,000. And his shop is about 20 or 25 miles away from me. And he's got a white 70 Challenger 4-speed, kind of a Vanishing Point tribute, shall we say. And he went over to the dark side for a while and had a Gen 3 Hemi in it, but he's come back, and now he wants to put a 440 in the Challenger like it's supposed to be. So he had this block, or got this block for it, and we're checking it out. He wants me to do some of this block work for him because, you know, he's got 5 or 6 projects going at all times, and a wife and 2 screaming kids that he says you can't turn off. So he's awful busy, so I'm going to help him with this project. We cleaned up the cylinders in the hone, and they're going to work fine for what we want to do. We're going to have to I guess we'll deck it just 3 thousandths or so to clean it up, just because the decking machine's 10 feet away, so why not? But, you know, this thing's 55 years old. These dowel pins aren't going to come out properly. We're going to have all these problems that you've already had. You've done this before. You've drug in a block and going to make a motor out of it, and it's going to take a while. But we're digging this block. It's a 1970 casting. It's not an HP, but it's stamped F440, and we think it's going to be wonderful. But there's going to be all the normal things that you have to do. This Gliptol that somebody put on decades ago is coming off, and he tried to brush that off. But no, Joe. If it's coming off, it's going to come off when you put it in. You can't do that. You've got to get all that out of there, and it's going to be a long process making something out of this, but we're going to do it, and the car deserves it, you know. So I guess we'll end up, I'll go ahead and we'll do the main bore first, I guess. Check it out, make sure that it's the size and everything, and hopefully we don't have to line on it or anything. And then let me show you this in the lifters. It's kind of bad. Can you see that red paint down there in the oil galleys? I mean, I can only assume that if this paint is old enough to come off, that paint is old enough to come off, and come on. We don't want paint in your oil system. You know, I'm going to have to get some kind of lacquer thinner and a gun cleaning brush or oil galley brush, something real stiff that I can pull that paint out with. And actually it looks like they sprayed this Gliptol, because I think they got it in the lifter bores, and then they tried to hone that out probably with a, and when you do that, it's totally wrong, because you're removing metal here when you're trying to hone that paint out, and when you do that, I mean, it's just all bad. You don't want your lifter bores too big. You want, that metal's precious. That's your clearance. When you add clearance, you're increasing the oil demand, and that's just all bad. So anyway, I think this has just got to be fixed, you know. That's okay. And we tried taking out some of these plugs the other day, but after however many years they've been in there, they didn't want to come out either. So just common problem. But I've got a buddy that has one of those induction heaters, and he's going to bring that to me tomorrow, and I'm going to try that while we still have some metal left here to get a grip on, and see if that'll do it. It'd be, I've never used one. I'm ashamed I don't have one, but I guess I've never needed one. But we're going to try that. That'll be a good demo. See if it works out for us. Okay, so if we're going to measure the main bores, then we're going to have to clean up the registers here and the caps. You've seen this in the other videos, but I don't know if you can see. I tried to get the glare of the camera just right so you could see. This had been hit somehow a little bit, and I'm hoping that you can see right there how much I had to file off for this to be flat. It was just catching this right on that point, and actually it touched it there too, and I had to file that smooth. But if I'd have just torqued it down and ran the dial bore gauge through here, I mean, you know, that dial bore gauge is in tenths. It doesn't take much for that to be up a tenth. Now, you're not getting an accurate reading. Well, how are you going to line hone something if you don't know the real hole size? So for the hole size to be real, this all has to be deburred. There has to be no burr sticking up right there and there. And just for fun, this block is very clean and very nice, but just for fun, you get your Chinese chaser and you run it through the holes and make sure everything's wonderful. And then when you get done, spray some WD-40 in there and blow out everything. And you know, you got to put a rag on there too. You want to blow that stuff in your eyes. That stuff's bad. So we want to deburr it, and we need to chamfer. You see how sharp that edge is? It's just perfectly sharp. We need to chamfer that very little. A little hand crank chamfer would work. I don't have one. I just use this thing. But you just want to touch it. You don't want to remove hardly anything. Just enough where it doesn't not sticking up anymore. Just almost nothing. You're just breaking the sharp edges, all you're doing. And then do the same thing to the caps. Chamfer the holes of the caps and get the faces perfectly clean. And get these registers perfectly clean. There's rust in here, there's dirt, there's these bad spots. Get it all ready to get an accurate reading. So I'll chamfer all these, I'll chase the threads, and I'll get it all clean and the caps clean and torque it down, and then we'll measure the main bore and see if we're going to have to do anything. And I'll get a straight edge and lay that in here too and make sure that we're got to clean these up a little bit. Some WD-40 and Scotch-Brite to clean those up. And we'll lay a straight edge in there just to make sure it's straight. Make sure this can't get a 1,000 feeler gauge under here. And then we will kind of see where we're at. You know what Joe's trying to do here? Joe's trying to turn me into a wedge man. That's what he's trying to do. And I don't know. I don't mind, I guess. You know, you got a lot to learn. I mean, a lot of this is, you know, this bottom end stuff and stuff like that's basic, but all I've ever really done for myself is Hemis. I don't even know how to put the intake manifold on a wedge. I mean, you've got a steel shim for an intake gasket, really? I mean, I've never heard of such a thing. That sounds out there to me. But I don't know anything about the rockers, how that works. Well, the mains look okay to me. There's nothing crazy going on here, so I don't know. So I've been studying up. He's trying to convert me. I've been reading my big block BRB Bible. A lot to read. I'm learning. Okay, now I'll put the caps on it and get the dial bore gauge and see where we're really at. They only give you half a thou specs, so, but they're generally not off. And they're always on the high side, but when you're only working with a half a thou, wow, it's close. Okay, let's see what we got. I've got this set 0 on 2.943, which is the high side of the limit. So let's see what we've got. Looks like it's 3/10 high there. Yeah. pretty close to dead on the other side. You're kind of straddling this oil hole, you know. Yeah, that's about, let's try that again. That's about 5/10 high. When you line hone something like this, about 3/10 high. When you line hone something like this, it's hard to, it's hard to hit all 5 of them at once. You know, it's not like a cylinder hone. 1 thou. 2 or 3/10. 8/10. It's a little high. I don't know if we should try to 8/10. I don't know if we should try to bring that in or not. Boy, that's a little more than I. Ooh, that one's pretty bad. Oh boy. All right. So I think we're talking. Over a thou. Yeah, we're talking line home now. We might as well just. Oh, this is gonna be a long. Yeah. That's going to have to be the end of this video because I'm going to have to, wow. I've got some, looks like I've got some work to do. 1.5 high. 1.2 high. Oh boy. So much for that, thinking this was going to be a breeze, right? It turns out nothing's easy. Of course, you know, when you see this clip tall in here, you know somebody's been racing it, and most likely, and so it's probably had a rough life. Okay. So now we're talking line hone. I think I better go take a nap or something.